On this episode of the Energy Flow podcast, we speak with Isabel Friend, who's truly a dear friend, and not only to me, but of water. She has devoted her life of the last 15 years to really understanding how we can take over control and help ourselves with water at affordable, practical ways, and not just about the quality of the physical water, but also talking about the spirituality and consciousness of water. This is an episode where we dive from the shallow end into the deep end fast here with water. And I invite you to learn more about the wild side of water and the wild side of you and how you can allow your structured flow to lean towards that wild side with your water. So join us with Isabel Friend in the Energy Flow podcast.
So I think it's going to be a natural progression that more and more people start waking up to the power of water, because what we're finding just in the realm of medicine alone is that dehydration is at the root of every disease. But people don't realize that because they don't realize what dehydration is.
Hello, and welcome to the Energy Flow podcast. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am here to discuss all things energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. Over my 26 years of being on this journey and 19 years in clinical practice, dealing with chronically ill, chronically pained, to the optimizing of health, and to everything in between, we have learned throughout these years how to efficiently and effectively teach people how the body works, get them engaged in that system, help them understand how the universe works and how those two connect. And that's what this Energy Flow podcast is about. Whether you are new to us or you've been a longtime listener of over 4 years now, we are so happy and honored to share our heart's honest truth about what we know, what has worked for us, what's worked in the clinical practice, and what might be the key to your next step in your journey. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing this with all that it will resonate with. We look forward to each and every moment of our genuine connection. Thank you for listening.
As we take a breath together, I know I'm so excited about this podcast because honestly, I have wanted to interview you for probably 3 years. And now that I know you personally, I'm just so grateful that this is the time right now when we get to really dive into your work and what you're really doing on the planet. And I'm just so grateful today to have this time and space with you, and for everyone listening to sit back and be aware that this is the foundational step with energy flow. If this isn't flowing, then it's not working. And this beautiful woman has made this her mission in her life to allow people access and ease and education about the fundamental aspect that you cannot have life without it, which is water. And Isabel Friend, I consider her a true warrior of water. A whisperer of water, and a wonderful, wise woman who really educates about water in ways, and it helps people experience water and what it holds for us and how it holds us. And Sarah and I had the distinct pleasure of spending our water retreat with Isabel in Bali. And today, as we launch this podcast together, as we record this podcast and then launch it, I trust that we will both remain truly embrace who we really are, and to allow us to step forward and share with all of the listeners and the viewers the experience that water has had on us, that it may create the ripple effect for all of you to allow you to be as empowered as we are and as free as we are because of this wonderful, amazing molecule water. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you for that beautiful invocation.
My absolute pleasure. And it was all extremely true. So Isabel, tell us a little bit, tell the listeners that don't know you and the viewers, who you are just a little bit, and then why water? Why did that become your thing?
Yeah, so I am, as you said, a water ambassador. I'm just a student of water and a servant of water. And I first started studying water back in 2009. I was a nutritionist at the time, and I was specifically studying nutrigenomics, or how the food that we eat affects our gene expression. And when we eat wild-crafted, foraged food, we have a more non-domesticated gene expression, a wilder gene expression closer to our wild progenitors and our ancestors, versus when we eat more agriculturally raised, hybridized crops and things like that, husbanded animals. We tend to have a bit more of a domesticated gene expression. So I started to think, well, what about the water that we drink? Because we're mostly drinking highly industrialized, highly processed waters. What if we were to just start drinking wild water directly from nature? And that's when I started harvesting from springs, and that had the most incredible impact on me in subtle but very profound and far-reaching ways, mentally, emotionally, physiologically, all of the above. And that really got me into the work of Victor Schauberger, who was a naturalist in the late 1800s and early 1900s, who had a better understanding of water than anyone alive today, or at the rate modern hydrology is going, anyone for the next few hundred years. He basically was for water what Tesla was for electricity. And actually, even Tesla in his later work was studying Schauberger. And Schauberger had discovered that water holds the keys to all of humanity's toughest questions because it is the source of life. It contains the answers to all of life's conundrums, whether we're talking about free energy. Victor Schauberger and others have been able to create free energy devices based on water, or whether we're talking about ecology, environment, agriculture, climate, whether we're talking about spirituality, sociology, even politics and economics, or, of course, because we are bodies of water, first and foremost, the realms of medicine and biology. So water has cutting-edge solutions in all of these realms. And when I started realizing that, that's when I realized that I just had to devote my life to water and to discovering and sharing its mysteries and its secrets. And even after 15 years of studying water, I'm still learning new things all the time. I've had the privilege of studying with some of the top water scientists in the world who've been studying water for decades, and they'll be the first to tell you that we know absolutely nothing about water. We take it so for granted, and yet its capacity is so vast and so limitless, and we've barely touched the meniscus of its capacities and its abilities for healing in every area of life. So that's kind of how I got my start and why I'm obsessed with it.
You've also traveled to a lot of these quote wild waters. I love how you talk about the domestication versus the wild. Not only side of us as we eat food because we become what we expose ourselves to and what we eat, but that the water, if it's not wild, then we become kind of what I say is like zombied out. Like everybody wants to know what zombie apocalypse is. It's right now. It's happening all around you. Look around. Most people are not really alive. There's a song who sings it, but it's such a silly song. That's something about like, am I alive? What a silly question. And I'm like, just a side note, if you want to talk about songs and water, this woman has a repertoire and a voice like you would not believe comes out of her. It's so beautiful. But to really, if you would, talk about a little bit about the travel to the sacred waters and why you travel and all the different places you've been to see water. If you want to list some of them, I think that would invite the audience to know the vastness of not only the people you've studied with, but the depths and devotion you've had in your 15-year journey with water.
Yeah, so I've had the privilege of studying with not only scientists in the Western world, but also with priests and priestesses of Agama Tirtha in Bali. Agama Tirtha is the holy water religion there, and you got to experience some of those amazing water temples yourself when you came to the Waters Life Retreat. It was such a joy to have you there with us and to share that experience with you. And the teachings that they've cultivated over countless generations in reverence to water is really something profound. They have many different types of holy water. Each one has a different ritualistic purpose and is gathered and tended to and prayed over in very specific ways to create specific properties within the water. I've also had the honor of studying with shamans in Guatemala, Mayan shamans, and was initiated by the Kogi Mamo from Colombia. And I've always loved going around the world and drinking as many wild spring waters as I can and bathing in as many wild waterways and waterfalls and lakes and rivers and streams as I can, because each body of water has its own unique medicine and has its own unique spirit as well. So, water itself is all one entity. There's water all throughout the cosmos, all throughout the universe. It's not limited to the earth, and all waters everywhere are one living being, just like you are one living being. However, your nose is distinct from your toe, and your ear is distinct from your shoulder. And it's those distinctions that are the various bodies of water. So you're conscious of being yourself all at once, your ear, your nose, your toe, your shoulder. In the same way, water is conscious of being in Niagara Falls and the saliva in a jaguar, and the water that is in the U-bend of your toilet, and the water that is, in the Orion Cloud Complex in deep space, all at the same time. It's all one body. Yet each of these bodies of water, and every body of water that we visit in nature especially, has its own unique character and its own vibrational signature, just like each of your organs has its own vibrational signature. And so when we approach these different wild bodies of water, we're meeting what the ancients called the genius loci. Of course, every different culture had different words for them, but the overall broadest term to describe the specific entity or the specific being that is present at a body of water is the genius loci of the place. And you could think of that kind of in those esoteric terms. The local genius, exactly. The local spirit. The local spirit.
Okay.
So you could say it in that esoteric way, or in a much more kind of practical term, the microorganisms present there, the microbiome in each and every body of water is entirely different. Therefore, it is actually a totally different living being. The vibrational signature that is absolutely measurable in each and every body of water is actually different. And so this is kind of what, at least scientifically, distinguishes and delineates the various capacities of these waters. And so it's really a beautifully humbling experience to meet them, and to meet them with that recognition of water always being this ever-present mirror. That water is the primordial mirror that is always, always reflecting consciousness back to itself. And that's true both on an external, broader, global scale, but also a very personal scale of the waters within our bodies as well. Our bodies are always a reflection of the thoughts, the feelings, the vibrations, the daily habits, the practices, the dietary aspect. Everything we do as human beings is always affecting our biowater in some way or another. Whether something is healing us or hurting us, it's a direct result of how it's affecting our biowater. Everything is either hydrating us or dehydrating us at any given point in time. And because we are bodies of water, 70% water by volume, but 99.9% water molecularly speaking. If you were to count all the molecules in your body, 999 out of every 1,000 of them are water. And so the quality of our health is entirely determined by the quality of our biowaters. And just like most of the waters in the world these days are stagnating and polluted and rerouted and diverted and commodified, it brings it back to what you were saying before of most people are zombies nowadays, because there is a huge stagnation and devitalization of people's biowaters as well. As above, so below, as within, so without. How we treat the external waters, we treat the internal waters, and vice versa. And this is really, I think, the main constituent of, are you alive? How alive are you? Because the measurement that we use to determine a person's vitality is the exact same measurement that we use to measure a person's level of hydration. Your hydration is what conducts your prana, your mana, your chi, and we can measure that using a phase angle meter that will tell you how hydrated you are, and it will also tell you how much electricity your cell membranes can capacitate, because it's a hydroelectric process, the osmotic flow of water in and out of the cell. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. If you're dehydrated, you don't have energy on board. It's hydration that is the conductor of all life force energy within the body. The more hydrated you are, the more life force energy you can sustain. So that was a bit of a circuitous answer, but
it's beautiful. No, I'm sitting here shaking my head because I have like 14 legs from that I would like to unpack, but I know we have a limited amount of time, and you have courses and I have courses, and this is not our last time to work together. I'm very excited about that. And everything you said is so poignant, and I really appreciate not only your scientific background, but all the shaman experiences, the spirituality, how you've bridged this gap between, like Veda has, like I have, like how do you bridge these two worlds of the 5D and the 3D? And it brought me right back to that center circle, that first day, where you asked us all, what is your favorite body of water? And even us who do public speaking for a living, we all go, oh my gosh, you asked us the question, we weren't prepared for it. We all want to do well on it. Everybody before me was naming their bodies of water that they live near. And I was like, I mean, Nakamex and Lake Lean are nice, but I don't really have a set. But Veda Austin knocked it out of the park when she said, for me anyway, she said, my own body of water, my body of water. And then my second favorite would be my kids and then my husband's. And I was like, she's right. That's my favorite body of water too. And what you just talked about is the same concept. Everything is a microcosm of the macrocosm, and it's a quality of the water that in the life we live and the things we expose ourselves to. And these are all choices. And then it becomes the filter in the body, and that we need to look at this. I love what you also said about each body of water has a unique medicine, and what I know to be true, and what Veda's proving, what I'm proving with Sound of Soul, and what you're all saying is that the medicine is within inside of us, and it's the water within us that really helps us heal. And we can go to these special waters, and I think particularly about quality, and I think about Bali, how I constantly, when people ask me about it, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is it's my fate. I have to really be conscious, because otherwise I'll answer it this way. I'll go, it's the best planet I've ever been to. And that's it. I mean, country. It's the best country I've ever been to. And it's the happiest place and the wealthiest place I've ever been to from the right perspective of quality. And it's because of, I would say, the reverence to the land, to the water, that makes the water palpably healing, and the people, because they're exposed to this water and they have so much reverence for it, and then they're full of it, that it doesn't matter what class they're in, as they are still in a class society. There is still this quality amongst the people, amongst the food, amongst everything, that even when it's not the highest quality food, I still feel the quality of the water that I'm surrounded by in Bali. The quality of the rain, the quality of the trees, the quality of the water that feeds all of that. That when we were then exposed to the water in the different temples, it literally, we washed it. I allowed it to heal my shoulder in a minute. 9 months I had been not getting full range of motion. And I have a conversation. I really let go in that water and let the water pound physically on my fascia, and just pushed it up, and literally was able to lift my arm above my head for the first time in 9 months. Thank you for that trip.
That was a beautiful moment. I loved seeing you raise your arm. Water is so healing. She's the primary healer within nature and all ecosystem.
And the primordial mirror, if you could unpack that for just a few minutes, because I think that's one of the, you have such a beautiful way to package words as well. Like, you are just a gift wrapper with everything you say that comes out of your mouth. It's just a gift. And that wording, primordial mirror, and that water holds this, is such a beautiful concept. If you could just share even not only your perspective, but any kind of stories that you may have about the different events and retreats you've given, that you've taken people onto these different far and place lands, as well as teaching and learning from water for all the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about it, up until just a few hundred years ago when mirrors were invented, the only way that we could see our own reflection was by looking into a body of water. That was the way that we knew ourselves, right? And even now, what we do to water, we do to ourselves. What we do to water becomes our fate, becomes our destiny. Victor Schauberger spoke about this way back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He said that based on the way that he saw water being treated, he estimated that within the coming generations, humanity would become less intelligent, less emotionally mature, and that there would be a lot of climatological natural disasters. So why would it be the case that treating water the way that we do, the way we were starting to even then, that's only gotten worse now, would create less intelligence and less emotional maturity? Well, we know that, of course, water represents the psyche. And I see it a lot in my clients as well when I do one-on-one coaching consultations, that the type of water they drink will be mirrored in their mental habits and patterns. So, for example, I get people, I had this one client, for example, who came to me and she said, I just feel so disconnected from everyone and I get frustrated really easily. I feel isolated. I know I'm not isolated. I know that my husband is really showing up and trying to support me, but I just feel like he's not supporting me. And I can detach from that. I can look at it objectively and I can see he really is showing up, but I just feel so unsupported and I feel so isolated. And she was drinking reverse osmosis water. Well, what's happening on a molecular level there? All of the molecules are completely isolated because there's no structure whatsoever. There's no coherence, there's no community, there's no connection, there's no hydrogen bonding. So all of the hydrogen bonds are forming and breaking apart billions of times per second. There's no time for them to snuggle up with one another and form that beautiful crystallographic matrix that creates the energetic and vibrational familial structures and culture within water. And as a result, people who drink that water and then societies as a whole who drink that water end up becoming a lot more distant and disconnected from one another. And so we got her drinking highly structured, coherent, full spectrum water, and she started finding a lot more harmony in her personal life as well. And this was one of my first experiences when I first began drinking wild spring water. I was in a relationship where it just seemed like we could never get on the same page. Like things were great, but our communication was just a little bit off. Like we just couldn't quite understand each other really well. We started drinking wild spring water, and suddenly it was so easy to communicate. When you drink really well-structured, high-quality water, it literally gives you not only physically more lubrication, but mentally and emotionally more lubrication and resilience as well. We see it in the body. Your fascia, for example, is 80% water, 20% protein, and it is the irrigation network that delivers water to all of your cells. What happens when that dries out, either because you're not doing hydrating movement practices or because you're not drinking water that's truly, able to penetrate intracellularly and gets everywhere it needs to go in the body, then you store trauma in different places, in those like dried out spongy areas of tissue of fascia that aren't getting the lubrication that it needs from the water. And what's beautiful is we can see this mirroring effect on every scale when it comes to water. I believe that because the universe is mostly water, this is a watery world. The Kogi tribe of Colombia, they say that water is the matrix of reality, and it holds within itself the entire map of reality, all worlds, from daily life to dreams to visions that we receive in medicine ceremonies. All of it is patterned within the infinite molecular matrix of water, which is holographic and fractal in nature. And as a result, the entire universe is holographic and fractal in nature. So we can see that, for example, each one of your cells volumetrically is 70% water. Your body as a whole is volumetrically about 70% water. More when you're younger, less as you age. The whole aging process is really just a process of drying out. Dying of old age is just dying of dehydration. But we'll say around 70%. The planet is 70% water. 70% of the condensed matter in the outer solar system is water. And 70% of the universe as a whole is hydrogen, which if you break it down in Latin, hydro means water, and gen is the creative force, that vitality, that essence. I consider hydrogen to be the spirit of water. And so at every scale, you can see this mirroring, right? And then, if you want to take it even broader, there are many researchers who believe that dark matter and dark energy are forms of hydrogen, superionic, or ionic forms of ionic hydrogen. So
that dark matter is ionic hydrogen. So it's like just like a polar opposite, like the dark side of the moon kind of experience.
So
by dark matter being ionic hydrogen?
Yeah, so there are a lot of researchers who have suggested that dark matter and dark energy, which together make up about 99% of the entire universe, are actually two forms of the same fluid substance. They both behave like fluids. It's just that dark energy is more of a superfluid and dark matter is also fluidic. But what they're saying is that it's most likely ionic hydrogen, which is hydrogen that is missing its electron. So if we're talking about protium hydrogen, it's one proton and one electron. If it's missing that electron, it becomes deionized or ionic hydrogen. You just have one proton. And according to the work of physicists like Nassim Haramein and Dr. Dan Winter, a proton is a black hole. And so that explains redshift and the expansion of the universe in a different way. There were some other researchers who completely independent of these researchers who say that it's a type of hydrogen, who say, oh, actually it's made up of, super tiny black holes. So really they're saying the same thing in the end. But you see this mirroring again, because if 99% of the universe is a form of hydrogen, well, also 99% of our bodies are water.
Yep.
So there's always this mirroring, there's always this holographic effect when it comes to water. The more we look into water, the more we learn about ourselves. And the more we look into deep space, the more we see water. The more we look within ourselves, the more we see water.
Listeners and viewers of the Energy Flow podcast, I'm only interrupting to tell you about the membership program that we launched a few months ago, where you can access all things energy, fascia, lymph, oxygen, and water, brought to you by the True Wellness team, myself primarily, with a lot of videos and a lot of blogs and a lot of recipes and all the things to support you to apply the science of energy in your everyday life, and how to do it simply and organized in a platform and with community. Once a month, this community gets together in a Q&A where you get to ask me questions. We've had beautiful interactions and beautiful questions already in just a few months. Join us. Become a supportive member here on the podcast for just $7 a month. You can be a tier 1 part of our Energy Flow Forum, where you get to go a little deeper into these podcasts offered to you for free. Or for $23 a month, you can be part of all of the things that we just discussed. I look forward to seeing you on our membership platform and at our Q&A. It's really fascinating to me how it's like the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that's the one thing you and I've talked about, is I've always just known that I needed good water. I don't know why I knew that. I just knew. I've always grown up on well water, and I always knew the difference. And I started selling water filters in my early 20s. And it's audacious to me when people put chlorinated tap water down in a restaurant, or thinking about what they're cooking with the food in the restaurants. Like, why in 2024 would you say, Isabel Friend, is that still, like, when I even walk in and ask for a bottle of water and they go, no, we don't have any. I'm like, okay, do you have any sparkling water? And they go, oh yeah, we do. We have San Pellegrino. I'm like, that's bottled water. And I prefer the glass bottle anyway, so please give me that one. But why do you think that is the status?
Well, there's a few answers to that. There's the more esoteric answer of we've been in the age of Pisces, which is the age of illusion. And we are like fish who swim through a world of water as bodies of water, completely unaware of the water that we're made of, or the water that sustains us, or the water that goes into creating absolutely everything, goes into growing every crop, goes into producing every material, goes into literally everything. The basis of every dollar that is traded on the market is based in water. Nothing can be grown, nothing can be produced, nothing can be mined. The value, the inherent value of everything is based in water. And it would undermine the structures of society if we recognized the true inherent value and worth and ubiquitousness of water, because as water can be a source of free energy, and as you understand water, you recognize that water can regenerate itself, that it's actually not necessarily a finite resource. It is a finite resource in the way that we treat it. But if we understood how to really work with water, decentralized free energy could be easily accessible absolutely everywhere in the world. And there's nothing that would more quickly undermine the entire matrix of control and centralized hierarchical powers than that, right? The entire system of capitalism would completely self-destruct if everyone in the world had a decentralized access to clean, healthy, potable water, or the ability to make any water clean, healthy, and potable, and generate free energy from it. Then we would no longer be dependent on external systems, and the capitalistic system would collapse. And so I think there's largely been a very concerted effort to keep water wisdom quiet. Also, the fact that anyone everywhere would have access to self-healing, would have access to cures, would have access to the ability to grow food, even in arid deserts, to create lush food forests out of the most dry, barren lands. When you understand water, you unlock the capacity to really steward watersheds in a way that creates healing in the environments and healing within people. Once again, that does not serve the powers that be that rely on human beings abdicating their sovereignty and their sense of responsibility to these external systems that have to provide those things for them. Water provides those things for us when we recognize how to work with her, right? She provides those things for everyone, everything in nature. Why would she not do the same for us? Because we don't recognize how to work with her. We're at every turn acting in opposition to the life force energy of water. We're acting in death force energy. So if we truly aligned with the life force energy of water and recognized fundamentally we are water beings, it would shift so much that even back in Schauberger's day, he spoke about it. Even then, we see it a lot now, but even back then, he said that water wisdom keepers were being censored, that in books that were published, even in the 1800s, where people brought water wisdom forward, later editions of those books, that information had been censored out of them. I'll give you a more recent example. Ched Myers developed an engine that would run 100 miles on a single gallon of water, any type of water. You could just get, rainwater out of a ditch, any kind of water. It would run 100 miles. And, the oil companies tried to buy up his patents. He wouldn't sell them. And he was then mysteriously suicided. He was at a restaurant, took a sip of cranberry juice, stood up, clutched his throat, said, "I've been poisoned," and then keeled over. Like, these are not uncommon stories in the realm of water wisdom keepers. So I think that part of the reason is that this is just the age of illusion that we're in. Fish don't realize the water they're swimming in. We don't realize the water we are, but it's also been a concerted effort. But I think the beauty of that too is that as we do shift to the age of Aquarius, fundamentally, that means becoming responsible water bearers. Aquarius is the sign of the water bearer. We have to learn to conscientiously bear the weight of life force energy and being responsible stewards of that energy. So I think it's going to be a natural progression that more and more people start waking up to the power of water, because what we're finding just in the realm of medicine alone is that dehydration is at the root of every disease. But people don't realize that because they don't realize what dehydration is. People think it's a matter of how much water you drink. It has very little to do with how much water you drink and everything to do with the state of the terrain inside your body and whether or not that terrain can sustain life. Is it structured? Does it have the oceanic mineral profile that it needs? Is it deuterium depleted? Does it have the right light and vibratory signatures? And is it able to move from one watershed into another, or is there stagnation? Watersheds within the body.
And that's the lymph channels.
Exactly.
And the fascia channels of, can it move throughout those watersheds of the body?
Mm-hmm.
I would invite you all to make that your first primary favorite body of water, while you're also accessing your local watersheds, which Isabel's going to talk about that in just a second as we end this first half of the podcast. But I want to go on the second half. I want to talk more about so many things you just brought up about the age of Aquarian, the age of consciousness, the holograms, hydrogen, water. I want to go a little deeper into that and the matrix of the reality of how we hold the information in the water. And this has been amazing as well as I knew it would be when I finally got an opportunity. Because you and I speak such of the same language, but on this different microcosm, right? And macrocosm level, which is so beautiful to have this reflection back to remind us that it is the fundamental primordial aspect of life. You can't live without it. And that for me, one of the things that dawned on me sitting here was, I believe, think and know that one of the reasons it's been easier for me to achieve the level of health that I was so quickly when I found vibrational medicine was I had already addressed the water. I'd been addressing the water for 3 years. I would not shower in anything other than filtered water. I wouldn't drink anything other than filtered water. And I was remineralizing all the water back then. I was using a lot of light therapy even in the 90s. And then I found this medicine of vibrational medicine, of emotional releasing and so forth, because the vessel was already purified and cleaned and structured water. It held the information easier, which is what we do with Sound of Soul and all the things, is we mirror people back to allow them to shift into that parasympathetic, out of that fight flight mode, right into the receptive mode and into the I can heal mode. And now I can receive that water, I can receive that light, all the things to allow the body to be. The biggest call of action in your life is being a rebel, is finding good water and making sure the water in your body is in alignment with your life and with who you are on many levels. And that for me is a little funny. But I did feel like a rebel then about asking about water, and I still feel like a rebel now. And it's really nice that we're coming out of Pisces into Aquarius so we can be the water bearers. And so tell them, number one, how do they find you?
So I am on Instagram at Isabel Friend. I have a YouTube channel at Isabel Friend. My academy, where I have all kinds of courses, workbooks, webinars, one-on-one hydration consultations. That's waterislife.academy. And all of the products that I recommend: water alchemy tools, filters, structurers, revitalizers, energizers, water altar tools, you name it, everything. Water books, a whole library of water books, all the things are at waterislife.shop.
And you have an event coming up. We are launching this just right before she's doing this, so I'm excited about this. She's doing a free webinar, which is the Living Liquid Crystals, where you really start to go into some of the science of why it's so important to pay attention to water, right? You want to talk about that a little bit. And then your course that's coming out that you're giving everybody a discount. I'm so excited about this. Very good.
Yeah, so the Living Liquid Crystal is basically everything you didn't know that you didn't know about water. I encounter a lot of people who I'm like, yeah, I'm a water teacher. And they're like, oh yeah, I know all about Dr. Masaru Emoto. So like they think but like, that's just the tip of the iceberg, you guys. There's so much to it. And the Living Liquid Crystal is a free 70-minute webinar where we go deep into all the interesting things, as deep as we can go in 70 minutes, but it's still a 101 course, and it's very eye-opening. It's a lot of people's favorite. So we're doing that live, and then for anyone who's on the webinar, I'm offering half off of my Navigating the Waters course, which is a 7-day course. It's all about drinking water, how different kinds of water affect your psychology and your physiology very differently, and how to take any kind of water and bring it back to spring quality water. No matter what water you're starting with, it can absolutely be alchemized to become some of the most healing and medicinal water on the planet. So that's the course where I teach you how to do that.
And you're water and you are the medicine. And we have a new
Yes.
water bottle coming up that we have because of Isabel. It's been an idea of mine for a very long time, since, and as you say, it's the tip of the iceberg, but 27 years ago when I started learning about Emoto's work and I started taping stuff on water bottles. And then I've gotten a little deeper into it since, obviously a lot deeper, but wanting to still create a water bottle that's glass, that's not leaching chemicals back into the water, and helping people structure water. And we know that the color cobalt blue, which are these beautiful blue water bottles that Isabel had available for us at a retreat, and the woman that created them created us a beautiful blue water bottle that's coming out soon. But I'm very excited about that. But this course is the navigating your waters and really learning. This is a question I get so much, and you're making it so affordable. So please go listen to this course and learn how to empower yourself to make good quality water wherever you are. And follow Isabel, follow her work, because she's also got something she's launching in January about water activism. And she has a workbook about water activism, because it really, I mean, truly to be a rebel now is to live organically, live without chemicals, and live with purified water with other like-minded people. That's how we're rebels. So
Absolutely.
be a rebel with us and learn how to be an activist in your community. And Isabel's got that dialed in. And do you want to mention that real quick, what you're doing in January?
Yeah, so in January, launching a team. We have scores of people already who want to just get more involved, who have either experienced the healing power of hydration for themselves and want to share it with other people, or they want to create a side hustle. And, it's not aligned with any one particular brand. I know there's a lot of these dogmatic, simp for a company kind of things out there where people get obsessed with one type of technology when it comes to water. I'm not going to name any names, but it's not like that at all. We're basically allying together to just spread hydration throughout our communities. And a big part of that is also spreading hydration through our watershed as well. And even as we are building businesses around, helping people hydrate, we're also really building a water guardianship movement around rehydrating our local watersheds, our local ecology, learning how to take care of our local springs, learning how to go and advocate at City Hall to make sure that, they're not putting glyphosate on our public parks, or they're not trying to, privatize and let Suez or Veolia buy up the public water systems and things like that. So it's kind of a 2 or 3 pronged, basically just water empowerment, water wisdom community where people, they can build an extra side income or full income, and then also really be a servant and a steward of the waters themselves.
The beautiful, I'm so excited about this program, mission, platform that you've created, Isabel. I'm really applaud you on your effort and your energy to put behind it, and your doingness of it. Really, I truly applaud you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. I'm excited about it too. There's a lot of beautiful people coming together to make it happen.
Yes, yes. So we're going to go into part 2, but thank you all. And thank you all for joining us, for being here and present to your water, and remembering that you're a reflection. And if there's any other parting words, Isabel, you'd like to share. If not, we'll go into part 2.
I think my only parting words are just that, water is the universal solvent. And when we have a problem, we want to solve it. And when we solve it or dissolve it, we call that a solution. When something is dissolved into water, we also call that a solution. And when you really look at it, water does contain the solutions to solve or dissolve all of our toughest questions collectively, but also personally as well. So I really encourage everyone to look deeper into water and to cultivate that personal, reciprocal, communicative relationship with water, because you are water. So it is the deepest relationship you will ever have. And it's worth cultivating.
Well, champions of the vibe flow community, energy flowing through that body, thank you for sharing this time with us and getting through the entire episode today. I know time is what we're spending here as our currency on this planet as people, and it really does mean a lot that as we devote our time and energy into creating this content, that you stuck with us throughout it. So if you would like more on this particular subject from this expert and get that free gift, make sure to register for our Energy Flow Forum. And you too, with a very nominal price, can access all sorts of upgraded content and deeper dives into the very subjects that you love: energy, fascia, lymphatics, oxygen, and water. As you know, as always on this show and any content that we create, it is for your own health purposes. This is not intended to be advice or medical diagnoses or professional advice. It's purely information that if it resonates with you and you apply it and you upgrade, we love to hear about it. What a great coincidence, and we're happy to be on that journey with you. If this doesn't resonate with you and you know somebody it will, pass it along. And in the meantime, know that we truly are here to show you and explain to you and be with you through this lovely journey of life, and to share our experiences together and help each other upgrade, because that's how we're going to do this, together, collaborating with love at the center. I'm Kelly Kennedy, and I am so grateful from my heart to yours to share this time, energy, and space with you.